Hello YouTube. In life, sometimes things do not go your way. Picture a scenario as such: you just booked a week of work, you wanna wind down and just enjoy a new game you bought, but your GPU dies. Absolutely no response, nothing. Diagnosis: it's dead. You call the shop where you bought it and they offer you a replacement, but in a week's time. You take it because no other option, but what do you do in a week that you booked off? You still want to play after all. Digging in the drawers, you find your super old GPU, in this case it's a Quadro FX1800. Can you save your week with it? Let's not treat this video as a typical benchmark, but rather a showcase of what you can still play if for a moment we stop this craze chasing after FPS and performance, etc. Like, what would you play if you couldn't play the newest releases? Could you still have some fun? And well, that would be a resounding yes, but before we jump into that, let's have a closer look at our guest. Quadro FX1800 is basically a professional version of the 9600 GT from Nvidia. It supports the same G94 core, has 64 CUDA cores and 32 texture mapping units and 12 ROPs. The only leg up it has over the standard 9600 GT is that it's equipped with 768 MB of GDDR3 VRAM rather than 512 megs. The card is clocked at 550 MHz stock and memory at 800 MHz stock. Since it's part of Nvidia Tesla architecture, it means we are out of luck for many modern or even older titles. This is because we are limited to DX10, no DX11 support. Quadros of course are made by Nvidia only, so we have a reference model on our hand. It's a sleek single slot design with a blower style cooler. There is no extra power needed and the card's TDP is 59 watts. It also features 2 DisplayPorts and 1 DVI, so it means you likely don't even need to rush to the store to plug it into your monitor. As a fun little exercise, I decided to squeeze all the performance we could out of this little guy by overclocking, and I must say it did more than I thought it would. The core we lifted by 25%, resulting in 690 MHz, and memory by 30%, resulting in 1040 MHz. Memory was actually maxed out in the slider, yet I believe it would do more still. The core was unstable at 700 MHz and above, and I decided not to mess with the voltages since Afterburner didn't make my day easy by allowing it to mess with myself. So you probably wonder, what games could you play on an antique such as this? Let me tell you, you're in a world of fun for more than a week, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. Before we roll the games though, how is it for daily use? Well, not bad actually. Of course it has no problem with desktop use and doesn't even drop frames on 4K 60 YouTube playback. Starting our benchmarks, we have Terraria. The game ran pretty much with locked 60 FPS on high preset in 1080p with all the bells and whistles on. It was a blast and you could play this game itself for more than a week and not grow bored, especially with friends. What if you wanted to get drunk and work on your car, only to find out you need to hit town on your moped because you ran out of beer? Well, feel free to do so, but if you wanna do it safe, you can do so in my summer car. In 1080p good preset we achieved 27.3 FPS average. Overclock did allow more fluent experience with 34.7 FPS on average. For a game that mostly consists of reading Steam guide and wondering what did you miss, it's more than enough. What if you wanted to fight off alien corporation? Well, you could have a blast doing so in Half-Life 2. In 1080p absolutely highest settings we see an average FPS of 66, well stock. This in itself is more than okay for a playthrough, but once overclocked we see even better result with 92.6 FPS on average. Game is super playable like this and it can get you by until you finally get the option of playing Half-Life Alyx. Euro Truck Simulator 2 is playable with an older GPU like this, with a little caveat. You have to use a beta branch and select older version. It is 6 years old at this point, but really if you just wanted to sit back and do some trucking, it's still fine. With 1080p and medium preset we achieved 39.5 FPS. Overclock allowed us to achieve 47.2 FPS, meaning it's more than okay to play like this, especially since it's not a game where fast reaction time matters at all. What if you wanted to play some Totslop? Well, you're in luck. Fallout 3 plays really well here too, with 44.9 FPS average while using 1080p high preset. After overclocking, you will see even close to magical 60 with 54.1 FPS. It's more than playable, and since this one is, so will be New Vegas, so you don't have to endure tot slop actually. What about racing? Well, Dirt Rally 1 and 2 require DX11, so sadly they are out of the question here. But if you're okay with a little more side content, then you could play Dirt 3 and have a great time. Using 1080p and a medium preset, we achieved 36.7 FPS in the built-in benchmark. Playable, but could be better. That is precisely why we overclocked, and that gave us 44.4 FPS average. Turning down to low would probably give you the best experience, but this one isn't bad either. You will also be able to enjoy one of the best Ubisoft games ever, and while that doesn't sound like a bar set high, trust me, the game is fantastic. And of course I have Far Cry 3 in mind. We had to drop the resolution down to 720p to achieve any good results and use low settings, but it wasn't super bad. We achieved 31.4 FPS stock, and overclocked we got a substantial boost to 48.3 FPS. You definitely could chill to Skrillex and Weed here, possibly even to these in-game. If you wanted to scratch that Explorer itch, you can play Tomb Raider, the 2013 edition. Using 1080p low preset, we achieved 30.9 FPS on average. Overclocked, we saw a decent improvement to 37.9 FPS average. I would probably raise some of these settings like the texture quality, because there is some leeway and that will make the game much more enjoyable. What if you wanted some fantasy with dragons and banging a redhead while you're at it? Well, you will have a decent time in Witcher 2. Using 720p and low spec settings, we saw an average of 29.6 FPS. Overclock did improve things to over 36.4 FPS on average, and this is honestly a great time in this game. What if you wanted some more fantasy with dragons, but this time with tot slop rather than sexy redheads? Well, that's where Skyrim comes in clutch. Running in 1080p medium settings, we averaged 23.9 FPS. With overclock, that figure rose to 29.4 FPS. Definitely not ideal, and you would need to either drop the settings or resolution to play it comfortably, but still it will be a great pastime. What if you wanted to go back and change some of the bad choices you've made that ended up in you fumbling a baddie? Well, too late now, but you can play it back in Sims 4. Using 1080p resolution, we were able to afford medium preset. We averaged 55.6 FPS stock and funnily enough 54.2 FPS while overclocked. Lows are, as the name suggests, low, but that is mostly due to hiccups when switching between modes. What if you wanted to place some blocks and extract to diamonds while your friend does honest work breeding 200 cows? Well, even most up-to-date version of Minecraft is somewhat playable, although Optifine will probably be a better bet. Using 1080p and fast preset, we averaged 45.4 FPS. Overclock did help by quite a bit, lifting our FPS to 54.3, which is playable, although not ideal. What if you wanted to rob everything from a jewelry store to a bank? Well, you're in luck. GTA 5 is still supporting DX10 runtime using 720p and absolute lowest settings. I wasn't expecting anything, but got pleasantly surprised. We averaged 30.6 FPS and what was okay, albeit a bit slow when driving. Overclock did raise it to 33.8 FPS, not a massive improvement I was hoping for, but all in all it's still great considering it's not even the top dog of its own lineup. What if you wanted to do some extra robbing, this time online? Well, you can still play GTA Online surprisingly. Average FPS was around 29.2 FPS with a lobby over 25 players. Overclock gave us once again a little boost to 34.5 FPS average, which is still very playable, and that's still in a packed lobby. With a smaller lobby you will have even a better time. Obviously, we would want to quantify our performance using some sort of benchmark. Luckily, our go-to choice of Unigine Heaven does work in DX9. We achieve an eye-watering score of 171 points. Overclock did raise that ever so slightly to 221 points to make it a bit less painful to look at. Since one benchmark is not nearly enough, we also run another one. Sadly, Firestrike or anything modern for that matter from 3D Max Suite is out of question, so we had to run CloudGate. This gave us 5392 points on graphics score. Overclock did make it higher all the way to 6489 points. It sounds all well and good, but in reality it's an awful score. So how do we sum this up? Can you really game on a 17-year-old workstation graphics card? Yes, and you can have plenty of fun. Just sadly it's not really a choice you should make nowadays, but as a backup it's fun little thing. I'm not saying you should go out and buy one just to keep a spare, but rather next time you upgrade think, is it worth selling your old GPU, or is it better stored away just in case you will need it? The FX1800 is still usable, albeit a little slow for even older titles. I don't think there is really more to elaborate on. You've seen the benchmarks, it does not get any better than that. That's all I had prepared for us today. Hope you enjoyed this look back, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.